Greetings, heathens and witches. Welcome to the Horn and Cauldron podcast. I'm Jon Norgrove.
And I'm Julie Norgrove.
And this is Horn
and Cauldron,
the podcast. So, yay. I gotta get intro music for that. So, this is the first episode, everybody. And, as you can tell by that beautifully unpracticed intro delivery.
It's clear that we're
new at this.
We're new at this.
We're new at this. Yeah. So, our goal is, let's start with our goals on this, right? So, our first and foremost, Horn and Cauldron is going to be like everybody's welcome, witchy, pagan, heathen, alternative sort of a podcast. So this is like a hate-free zone, no hate, unless they deserve it.
And even then, probably not.
And then even then, like, why? It's not worth the effort, man. You don't gain nothing from hate, so no hate.
Yeah.
Don't do hate. No hate. Anti-hate. Our goal is to get these out every other week.
Yep.
So, it's twice a month, except for the months where it's three times a month. You get paid every 2 weeks. You know how that works. Right? That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah.
Because I think of it like being paid, but
so
we're not getting paid.
So either associate us with the time that you're broke or the time that you got lots of money because you just got paid.
Yeah. Because that's how we're going to associate this with, because I'm not entirely certain how this lines up, but it's probably the broke. Yeah, so our goal here is to get these out every other week for the foreseeable future. You should be able to find us on all of your podcast things, and if you're watching this video, then we're going to be here also on Mondays. If you're not watching the video and you're listening to the podcast, join us over on youtube.com/nerdjive.
And you can listen to these early.
Yeah, you can listen to them early, and you can see our beautiful faces. Well, you can see her beautiful face and whatever the hell's going on with me.
Face.
But that's fine. So, yeah. And, as things progress, I'll probably use a better mic than this mic, and we'll get like a nice thing. Don't worry about it.
We'll figure it out.
But
Come with us on this journey.
Exactly. So our goals are, I wrote some stuff down here, so get used to that. To share and educate on all things witchy, heathen, herbalism, naturalism, philosophy, occult, pagan, and kind of everything in between. Sort of to talk and discuss about all this stuff. Build a community of open-minded people who want to share and practice in the knowledge of ways like this, ancient ways and modern interpretations of ancient ways, as well as to explore, learn, and educate together. So, if we say a thing and you disagree, you comment below. You find this video, if you're listening to it and you comment, you send an email. Go to nerdjive.com. Yeah. I got a contact form there. Send me an email. Let me know. And we'll go from there.
Baby witches, if you call yourself that, or novices, or even people that have been just practicing for a while. Yeah. Like, you're all welcome here. Like he was saying, we want to create this like really nice kind of place where you can come and kind of learn and listen, and so that we can also expand in our own journeys too.
We are not experts. This is for entertainment purposes only. All right, let's get that legal shit out of the way. All right, we are not experts. This is for entertainment purposes only. We are not giving you life advice. We are not claiming that our answer is the one true answer, or even an acceptable answer to begin with. We are two jackasses standing in front of a camera. Well, sitting.
We're actually sitting
in front of a camera, drinking beers, and talking about one of our
favorite things
to do, and one of our practices and our hobbies, and something that's passionate to us, and that we, honest to God, you know what, we talked to so many people about it, we figured why not sit down and talk to all of y'all. And that's what we're doing here. So yeah, put us on in the drive, put us on in the whatever, and let's go from there. But so I guess maybe first and foremost,
I think we should maybe talk a little bit about us.
It's introduction time. So so let's see. I'm Jon Norgrove. I'm 31.
Oh, we're talking about ages?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. She's not going to do that. I'm young or old depending on your point of view, and it doesn't really matter because I don't believe in that shit. I just don't care how old people are, and no assholes. And
so you would consider yourself a what?
I would call myself a shamanistic Odinist is probably the best way to say that. A runic satyr, although that's sort of like modifying a noun with a noun, but still. Is kind of the way that I say it, so it's like a modern interpretation of older Norse practices, and that sort of thing, influenced a lot by Wiccan and Buddhism, and I was raised Catholic, so influenced a lot by that. And I sort of, I'm very like omnidirectional with regard to like let's learn everything, you know, and let's practice everything. I mean, like this year for me has been an adventure in tarot. Pre this year, I never did anything.
Yeah.
Really tarot-y. And now I have spent an embarrassingly large amount of money on tarot decks on Kickstarter. Guess what? Kickstarter won 2020 with regard to my fucking checking account. I'll tell you that much right now. There were a couple of those Kickstarts there that I kickstarted. I was just like, I want all of the things. And they're like, that's going to cost a lot of money. And I'm just like, fuck. But
I guess I gotta
do it. And then I did it and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you know, I practice herbalism and spiritualism. I meditate a lot. I'm a big advocate of meditation. I think of myself as somebody who focuses a lot on sort of efficiency in thought and in movement, because of my background in martial arts. So I do a lot of superfluous and unnecessary things. Don't think that I'm trying to say that I'm doing something special. That's not what this is. But I like to really analyze things. I'm hyper analytical about stuff, which I know like one would think that being hyper analytical about something as esoteric as non-standardized faith might be a little untoward. But I like to analyze things and then, you know, I mean, sort of read into it what you're feeling and what you think is right, and sort of learn and grow and educate. And I've always believed that, you know, your faith is your faith, and if you learn something new and you think that your faith needs to shift to adjust to that new information, then that makes sense, right? I mean, if you think of, for me, I think of faith and belief and practice as sort of like as an architectural sense, right? Like as a church in its physical form. And if you learn all of a sudden that there's this new shit called concrete, and you can build out of fucking giant rocks, you know, like giant perfectly cubed off rocks. I mean, don't you think you're gonna tear down that wooden structure and build a big ol' stone structure in its stead? You know, so for me, religious education is this idea that one's religion evolves with the education they gain. And that's sort of where like I sort of approach these things, is sort of like, how do I learn more? What am I going to learn? And then what can I do with the knowledge that I gain? And sometimes it's like, you know what, this knowledge aligns with what I believe and, you know, and how I feel about this. And you know, like, I'm gonna run with this and it's great. And sometimes it doesn't align and I'm just like, you know what, but it brings up a bunch of great points that I never thought of. I'm gonna run with it. And sometimes stuff aligns with my opinion and I'm just like, you know what, I like it and it aligns with my opinion. It's not a practice that whether it's feel comfortable with or enjoy, or honestly it's just like, I'm not really feeling it. And to me, that, like, as like absurd hippy dippy as it sounds, it's like, if you're not feeling it, man, you're just not feeling it. And it's just not worth it no more, you know? So, you know, for me, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I ebb and flow through times of like, I'm making a bunch of crafts and I'm altering, you know, I'm doing stuff on my altar and I'm doing tarot every day and I'm, you know, making runes and designing stuff with bits of down tree that we have and such like that. And then I'll go for months where it's like I don't touch any of it and I'm just sort of wrapped up in other projects. You know, and so there's a give and take to it. There's an ebb and flow. You know, I'm much of a weird shamany water person about that sort of stuff. So it's sort of like the ocean. I'm real psychotic about the ocean, man. I love the ocean. If I'm near the water, I have to go in it. It's like a thing for me.
Yeah.
We live up in Northern California where it is cold as shit in the water, and I am out there in a banana hammock in December if I could. You know, like, no questions asked.
Yeah, you don't really go to our beaches to, like, lay out in the sun and swim like you do beaches in other places.
You can, right, during the summer.
Everyone that we have that are friends from any place south.
SoCal people don't.
SoCal people are like, how do you handle this?
It's not that cold, man. Dude, I own a red, white, and blue bald eagle on the ass banana hammock, and I will take that shit out. What was like 2 years ago, we got done on a road trip and we stopped off at the beach in like January or something.
Yeah.
And I was out there body surfing with a bunch of these guys in wetsuits and shit, and they're just like, "This is not safe, man.
Yeah.
You gotta get in." And I was like, "No, it's great. I love the ocean, and I'm one of those people." And honestly, I think that sort of connection for me really treats to sort of the way that I look at faith and religion and belief and all this sort of stuff. Is there's an ebb and flow, and there's currents, and it's more full of life than sometimes we give it credit for. So, yeah, I mean, that's me in not so many words, but far too many at the same time. What about you?
Oh, geez. It's hard for me to really, like put myself into a category. But I guess maybe I should first introduce myself. So, hi, I'm Julie Norgrove. I am not going to give my age, but let me tell you, I am eternal.
Yeah, she's like 4,287. Whatever old is. Whatever
but
old is. But like arcane old, not like old geriatric old.
But also like the juxtaposition of being very young at the same time.
Yeah, young at heart. Old at soul.
I've been practicing magic ever since I was little. So I've been practicing magic for over 30 years. And even going back as old as I can remember, it's never been a thing for me that needs a label. But at the same time, I also remember a time when you very much didn't talk about this stuff with anybody, except for those that you knew were going to be okay with it because of the way that you would be labeled. And I didn't come from a very religious household or background. That's just how things were when I was growing up. But when I was very little, like one of my like oldest memories is me making potions in the backyard, and they were pretty magical. I would just take like little things from here and little things from there, and I would blend them up, and you would use them like potions, and then they would do whatever it was I said they would. I remember doing all of that, and working with spirits is something that I've done since a very early age. I didn't really have an imaginary friend per se, although in some kids that's kind of the way that manifests. I always knew that it wasn't imaginary, that was my spirit guides, as it were, and that was sort of the thing. Actually, like the awakening for me with the spirit guides was Phantom of the Opera. And I don't really understand why, but when I heard Phantom of the Opera, it was before it was like recorded on TV, and it was only like on DVD, and it was or CD, and it was like a big deal. That was kind of like my like snap. I was like, oh, I get it now. Like these are spirit guides, and that's what this is, and this is how this.
It's the half mask.
How this works. I don't really understand why it like did that, but as a kid, I spent a lot of time at the library, and I remember just devouring every book I could get in the occult section, which was everything from magic to aliens. And back in the 80s and the early 90s, there wasn't a lot there, so you had to really like search far and wide, and you had to take things from books, and you had to kind of like use your intuition really heavily. And then as the 90s rolled on, I started to finally be of an age, and things started to be of a time, and magic started to be of a place where it was socially acceptable enough that you could find books on things. So it was a lot of me just like figuring stuff out, and it's really cool the way that's one of the reasons why we're doing this is I didn't have anyone to teach me or to give me information for that. And I see so many people, not just women, but people everywhere, sort of turning to this more natural magic, more of a ancestral type of a thing. And a lot of people are looking for help. They're looking for information. They don't know where to start, because right now the problem is not that there isn't enough information, it's just that there's too much. How do you tell what's good advice and what's bad advice? Like I saw
too many meal numbers on the McDonald's menu, man. It makes it hard to choose which number you want to eat.
Well, I saw someone recently on Reddit who was saying that they were putting their offering drawings inside of like a jar candle for the deities that they were following. And I was just like, oh my gosh, no, please don't do that. And these questions come up, and I just think, gosh, like, I guess I know what my answer to that would be, but trying to put myself in that other person's shoes. I've always seen myself as sort of a mentor. One of my nicknames is the cardamom, because I'm sort of the mom of whatever friend group it is that I reside in. And, sometimes I know this stuff just because of like personal experience, but sometimes I know this stuff just because I know. Yeah. And for me, I don't know that I really have a designation for what I would call myself, because I don't really know what I would be, because I am very eclectic in my tastes and in my practice, that.
Singular in faith.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have like one bucket that I can really put myself into, but I've studied a lot of Wicca, and I've studied a lot of magic with a K. I've studied a lot of Celtic type magic, as well as Hellenistic, so Greek mythology, Egyptian magic. All of that stuff is very interesting to me. I'm hugely into astrology. And I am not an expert by any means, and I'm always learning new stuff with that, and it never ceases to fascinate me how it can really sort of dig in and help you understand who you are and where your path is and where you're going and how to get there and how to accentuate your strengths and acknowledge and sort of move past and work with your weaknesses, which is something that a lot of people don't think about astrology. A lot of people are just like, oh, it's like a horoscope and it's all super general stuff, like you might have a bad day today. But for me, astrology is so much more than just like a horoscope or that sort of thing. But don't get me wrong, I do love my astrology memes. I also...
Witchy memes have been on point this year. Let me tell you what, dude.
2020 is a good year for witchy memes.
Yeah, good year for witchy memes, 100%.
Yeah. I also like crystals and herbs and
Gotta
stuff.
love shiny rocks. Listen,
I really like shiny rocks.
Rule 1, pagan shit. Shiny rocks are dope. Rule 2, sharp things are also dope. I'm gonna be real with you.
Oh no, for me, rule 2, it was sticks. Collect all the sticks.
Sticks can be sharp,
Sticks
dog.
are super important.
Sticks are pointy? I got a lot of pointy sticks. What are you fucking talking about,
But I also really like herbalism, which is the use of herbs for therapeutic manners, but also the magical side of herbalism, which incorporates the things that you're not necessarily going to eat.
Holistic medicine of herbalism, which we're studying online, as well as the magical side of herbalism.
Yeah, and tarot.
Cool.
I'm huge into tarot. I've been reading tarot since I was very young.
Tarot.
No, it's not tarot.
I think it's tarot.
I've been reading tarot since really the only deck you had was Rider White. So it's pretty cool. I also like oracle decks and stuff like that. I do a lot of magic by the moon phases. I've always felt really... attracted to and engrossed by the moon and the power of the moon. And I don't necessarily do magic at every phase of the moon, but I do pay attention to that. And for me, the dark moon, the new moon is the most powerful sort of piece in my sort of magical thing. I can feel it, like how you would feel the full moon. So I do a lot of lunar magic as well. I still do potions as an adult. I do a lot of kitchen magic. We live in an old growth redwood forest, and it is located on top of a fairly powerful ley line, and so I work a lot with the energy of that, as well as energy magic sort of in general, specifically with colors. And we, upon moving here, really have been working fairly closely with the Fae folk, which I know a lot of people aren't really into, but it's one of those things where once you kind of know what you're getting into, you have a little bit better understanding of how to navigate that, and we'll get into that in later podcasts. So I do a lot of Fae magic. I do a lot of magic that is associated with the spirits of the land that we are in. I can talk to ghosts and banish them if need be. And for me, magic and all of this stuff is really much more like an intertwining of things. I feel like I can sort of like grab it and harness it, and it intertwines with my daily life in many ways. And even before living in a, like a super cool old forest and like an old house that was haunted and, all that other kind of fun stuff. But for me, it's something that's always been there. It's stable, it's a rock, it's steady, and I understand it even though I don't know all of it. And it helps me to sort of just like keep my head straight, as it were. As someone who's struggled with depression and anxiety my whole life, it is something that helps me in my darkest times to kind of help to climb out of that, and
to right the ship.
Yeah, and much like you, I there's times where I'm doing stuff every single day, and then there are times where I sort of leave it alone and sort of let it go for a little while, and it kind of ebbs and flows. So if you're listening to this and you've been thinking like, oh man, I haven't done anything with my magic lately, or whatever the case is, like, you're not alone. It's standard for that to ebb and flow. The moon ebbs and flows, the seasons ebb and flow, the tides ebb and flow. It's not a constant.
There's rhythm to things, and especially if you're new to a lot of this, you're gonna find a lot of people who call themselves experts, and insofar as one is always an expert in their own faith, as long as they admit and are aware of the fact that there is always room for growth. Yes, they are experts, but at the same time, everybody has willingness and has space to grow, and like, for me, the thing is like, some people have really intense opinions about structure in faith, that may or may not agree with the way that I look at it. And for me, it's one of those things where it's like, it's cool that you feel that way, and that you have that level of structure. I would rather not have that level of structure in my life with regard to faith, so I'm just not going to, or practice or anything like that. And at the same time, I mean, you know what? Like, I'm always, I'm on the Reddit boards and the subreddits. Ugh, sound like an old person. I'm on the subreddits. And
I'm on the internet.
And I'm on the.
Do you use the Google?
I do sometimes use the Googles. Sometimes, listen. Sometimes you have to Yahoo a thing, or God help us all, you have to fucking Bing a thing. Those.
No, it's like that movie, the Interns, with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. Where they go to
where they intern at Google. That's a good movie.
Do you use the InstaChat?
Yeah. Don't even get me started with the InstaChats. But and you know what? I mean, like, I'm with Julie on this one. I love me a good shiny rock. I love me a strange porcelain thing. I like collecting stuff. We will inevitably, probably the next one for Yule. The next podcast is about Yule, by the by. Probably for the next podcast, we will we'll show you the altar space. We were going to film there, and last night I was watering the Christmas trees.
Only to find out that
the vessel has holes in the bottom. Yeah.
So we had to take it all apart.
Yeah, I had to move everything around, reconfigure where all the wiring was going for the Christmas lights and the other lights that we have on our altar space. Julie and I have one like large altar space that we have bifurcated. So one side is
with
mine.
Sort of a common area in the center, in the middle. Yeah.
And one side is mine and one side is hers, and
it's very interesting.
Mine
the differences
is incredibly less organized than her. Hers is very nice and neat, and there's like rocks in pretty places. And mine is just like piles of stuff.
Yours is
what is this? Like a bunch of dead flowers? Let's just put them in a box. What is this? Box of dead flowers? What is that? Sack of chicken bones? What is that? Like that kind of stuff.
Well, yours is a lot more like sort of heathen and hoodoo and
it's much more shamanistic
looking, and
lots of piles of melted wax.
Mine's a lot more like I have a lot of statues, and I have a lot of
I got a lot of statuary,
things,
man.
and everything is very like intentionally placed, like very specifically. That rock goes there, and that thing goes there.
And we're both very holistic, and we're both very like naturalist with regard to a lot of these things. So like earlier I mentioned that I have a bunch of chicken bones, like Nat, this guy here. So this is the keel bone for our first rooster.
So what is
raise
the keel bone for those that are listening and not watching?
Or it's keel bone. It's not a fish. It's the breastbone.
It's
the breastbone. Don't worry, I'm just drunk. But it's whatever. You'll get used to it. And you can actually see that this one is like warped. It's not perfectly straight. So we raise our own chickens for eggs, and we keep a rooster primarily because we have like enormous forest mice, or rats, whichever you want to call it. It's basically the size of a small animal, so who cares?
They're like mini
squirrels and
ROUSS's.
Foxes, and there's technically a bear like on the far side of the like down the road from us. So I mean, nobody messes with our chickens, but we like to have a rooster around. Plus, it allows some of our chickens to hatch their own chicks, which we have done before. So our chickens are making.
Sometimes we end up eating the chickens as well.
Our food is making its own food. But we do sometimes eat our chickens. Ted, our first rooster, which is a pretty good story. All of our chickens are very strangely named. You'll get to meet all of them, I have no doubt. Especially subscribe to youtube.com/nerdjive. We get a lot of those. We'll start doing some chicken videos and some gardening videos. We did a bunch of garden stuff we did some garden stuff this year, and we're gonna do more next year. I started a little late on it this year, but so when we decided to kill Ted because he was getting a little too aggressive towards the females, he was chewing them up a little bit too much, with his claws and stuff, and he was getting aggressive towards Julie when she was going in there to collect eggs and stuff like that, which is like not cool.
And you can't really like train them to be less aggressive once they've kind of like reached that threshold.
In our coop space, really it was sort of one of those, like, once he started getting aggressive towards Julie when she was trying to do her work in the coop, like that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. But it was also a lot of the fact that we noticed he was getting more aggressive towards the females, and like sort of like, interrupted it. It's commercial time. That's how we're doing this for right now, because I haven't figured out a great transition. So
actually, the battery in the camera died, so this felt like a good place to cut.
Don't listen to her lies. Anywho, so we obviously, this is the first episode. We don't have a sponsor, but we can sponsor ourselves, and that's exactly what we're doing. So we have an Etsy shop. Actually, we do make some witchy aesthetic stuff. We've got some altars up there, and we've got some like dream pillows, and I do some like.
And we got some art going up in there.
Like cosmic abstract pour painting art. I should have brought one out here to show you
Later
now.
Later on, once we get a chance, I have art that I do, which is a bit more Bob Rossi.
Yeah, she does Bob Ross style art, and then we also do some art together where I do the base layer as a cosmic like abstract pour painting, and then she Bob Ross is on top of it, which turns out super badass. So visit.
And we've also got some purses that are gonna go up there. And forest gnomes that are straight from the materials in the forest. So if you've seen those cute little gnomes that have those little like hats, and then it's just the nose and a beard, we've got some of those that we'll be making and putting up there. Maybe in time for Yule, maybe not. It just kind of depends. Life is pretty busy, and we have full-time day jobs.
Very hectically busy people. So we'll see how that works out. But either way, we're saying that this episode is
so
sponsored by us.
If you're interested in any of that, stop by our Etsy shop, which is Norgrove Enterprises. There will be a link in the comments below, and if you're listening on the podcast, there will be information in the show notes.
Yes.
You can also follow us on our Instagram. That's our most used channel right now. We're thinking about TikTok. We're just not there yet.
Yeah, if you think we should TikTok,
and
tell
you can
us.
follow us on Instagram at either Nerd Jive or at Goddess Jules.
Yeah.
That's
Nerd Jive's on everything.
Yeah. Again, in the show notes or in the description down below, depending on where it is that you're listening to
or,
us on.
and you can find all these links and everything at nerdjive.com. So go to nerdjive.com and you'll find all the information that you need about us and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Let's get back into it, huh?
We were talking about Ted, our rooster.
Yep.
So Ted was too aggressive and we had to put him down because of his aggressiveness.
Yeah.
And our plan had always been
He had reached a pretty mature age, too. He was around for a couple, like 2 years. Yeah, a little over 2 years. Maybe.
And chickens don't have a very long lifespan in general.
He was a grown ass boy.
He was a fully grown
beautiful grown ass boy. By the by, we still have a ton of his feathers.
So we decided that it was in our and the chicken's best interest to put him down. So what we did was on Samhain, which is Halloween, we decided. Oh no, that wasn't Samhain. That was.
No, we killed
that was
Ted.
Midsummer.
We killed Ted on Midsummer. Yeah.
So on Midsummer, so the longest day of the year,
summer solstice.
Yep. We decided to cull Ted from our flock, and we did it in a very humane way. So if anybody out there is upset, sorry guys.
We have a farmer friend who trained us on how to properly cull the chickens in our thing, and she's a dearth of knowledge and has been very helpful.
I know, I love her so much.
Yeah, she's the best. She's
love
the best.
you, Em.
Yeah, you're the best.
So she taught us how to do all this stuff. So we put him down as humanely and ethically as we possibly could.
Yeah.
And we did it fairly ritualistically. But when we say that, that doesn't mean we're holding the chicken above our heads and doing the thing or any of that stuff. Yeah. But what
the
we
ritualistic standpoint is more of a state of mind and a propriety of action, because we also definitely followed every single safety procedure because I'm super neurotic about those things.
Yeah. Well, and it was
it was hyper
built
safe,
with
hyper
intention
clean.
and reverence.
It's mostly the intention and the headspace you're in when you're doing it.
Yeah.
What was important for us there.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
we ate him, and for us, we made him into stew.
Yeah, good stew too.
It was very good stew.
If you raise your own chickens, you're generally not gonna cut a turkey breast off and make a turkey sandwich. That's not really what you do with your own chickens. That's for mutant farm giant mutant farm chickens.
But
we do stews.
Yeah.
Or we've talked about doing chicken pies. We haven't done that yet.
We haven't done that
just
yet.
because we've been lazy. But
but we did it with a lot of thought behind it. And again, we do intentionally raise our chickens to be sort of half pet and half food.
Yeah.
So
and then I did a bunch of research. This is part of this education thing is do research. Look stuff up. Always be learning. That is very important. It's the bloody theme of this whole podcast is always be learning. I found some videos and some forums and a bunch of farmers boards and all kind of stuff online about how to properly process bones. Right? So that way they're bright, they're white, they're clean, they're sanitary. But they're not brittle and they're not going to risk any damage. And these bones that I processed came out, and these are white as heck. Mm-hmm. They're super white, they're strong, they don't have the sort of fill glow sometimes you get when you don't process them properly. And it took a while, but when we broke it down for stew meat, basically what we did was we just boiled the bones down for quite a while. We used an Instapot for that, which is the sauce for everything.
Literally everything.
Yeah, Instapot sponsor us. Somebody find Instapot and make them sponsor us. We use that damn thing for everything. It's the best.
We
have two of them, for the love of God.
Yeah, we have two of them, and one of them basically permanently lives on our counter.
Yeah. And then we soaked the bones in hydrogen peroxide. And again, this was just over-the-counter stuff. You know what? The internet's telling you want to use bone work hydrogen peroxide, which is whatever, 5% as opposed to the shit that we get that's 1.5% or 2% or whatever the heck. And you know what? You can do it with some other stuff. Patience. is the key there.
Yeah.
You know, so I used a glass vessel and I processed those, and then we have the chicken feet and the wingtips, which I have not pulled out yet. They're only at
those are being dried.
they're only at like 6 months.
Yeah.
In the dry, and I want them in there for a year. And so what I did for that was I got like a sort of briefcase style cardboard box that. What the hell came in that box? Why do we have that box? It's like it's like a super nice. It's like a really nice like cardboard gift box. I don't even remember what we got that came in it, but whatever. We got it, and it was just like the perfect box at the right time. You know, everything works out with the right intent. But so I filled it with a mixture of salt and borax, and the reason why is that salt is going to draw out the moisture and then allow it to spread to air, as well as retard like mold growth and like the gross stuff. And then borax is going to prevent any pests in there. Borax is, to be completely honest with you, the house witch's secret ingredient. For really a bunch of stuff. Yeah. We changed to, instead of buying ant steaks, like I was born and raised a Grant Ant Steakman. I'm brand name Grant Ant Steaks. Every time they work, they're fucking perfect, right? None of this fancy nonsense ant shit. I don't know how none of that shit works. Especially none of the sprays. I hate canned bug spray. It's the freaking worst, man. But yeah, we found this recipe online like right after we got the house, actually. Yeah. And it's borax and sugar dissolved in water, and you just soak cotton balls in it, and you put it at like spots where you've seen them. And like we now know some of the like home spots on the outside of the house. We have some ants come out in the front yard there. Yeah. There's a log that they come out of, and there's some ants that come out of from down the hill of our house that come up the side of the wall of the house towards the bathroom. And so what we do is we know where they're coming in. You know, again, observe your surroundings. Paying attention is the secret to being outside. Is paying attention. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but you notice a bunch of shit this way.
Well, one of the things...
so we put them there, and we put them there, and it humanely reduces the ant population, right? But it keeps them from coming into the house. And to be completely honest with you, they come back like once every 3 months. Not in the house, though. We'll just see them outside where we know they are. We put the stuff out. They go away for a little while. Then they come back. We put the stuff out. And it's this nice thing where we've never completely destroyed the ant population out there.
Well, but that's the thing,
But they don't come into our house.
One of the things that we've been doing since we live here now is trying to live in harmony with the land.
Yeah, with nature, not in nature. You know,
and it's very different. I grew up in a very urban setting in the Bay Area, and now we live in the middle of the woods. And you know, like child me would have never thought this would have been my house. But at the same time, every time I see one of those memes that's like, I just want to be a witch and live in the woods in a creepy old house, and
with your dogs and your chickens,
like your dogs and your birds and all your magic stuff. Like that's actually my life.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's really wonderful.
You can just do it. You know what, man? I mean, we live in a very expensive part of California. Very expensive part of California. And we are not at all, like, big wealthy boys about it. But you know what? We found a way to sort of, like, find our place and make it our own. And you know, that's sort of the important thing for us, is sort of finding it and making it. I mean, we spent, like, a whole Sunday... I built like a dedicated spot out of old plywood because I'm big on like recycling stuff, and like if a brewery's getting rid of wine barrels, or a winery's getting rid of wine barrels for free, you know, I'm gonna go down there and pick them up. Or like, I mean, hell, last winter, like 3/4, not even more than that, probably 9/10 of the wood we burned was down trees in the local area that people had cut down on their property and wanted to save a penny, so they didn't have the people who cut them down haul them off and recycle them. Yeah. And so they just put it up like, hey, if you want to haul the wood, it's free, just come pick it up. I met a ton of great people. Every person I met was super awesome. They're like the nicest people, and you know what? They had a thing that they didn't want on their property, and we had use for it, so I brought it all home. I split it. Julie has figured out how to stack wood like perfectly, so we have this like nice routine where I just split wood. I bought this Oh man, it's that company that make the sewing shears also. Who is it who makes my axe? Fisker.
Oh.
Dude, oh my god.
I use Fisker scissors, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Fisker makes the best scissors on the planet.
I use fancy scissors.
Fisker's the fancy ones. Yeah, I took a risk on a limb and bought a Fisker splitting axe because the axe that I was using, I literally shattered the head off of.
Yeah.
Which is fucking horrifying. I recommend you don't do it. But I risked it with this Fisker, and it turned out to be really great, you know, and I mean, like, some of the stuff I use is modern, some of the stuff I use is way older, like wood handle stuff.
Yeah. Well, our first thing, our go-to is like when we're trying to figure something out, because we do live in a really old cabin and we live in a forest and stuff, and we try to not only live in harmony with the land, but also we've been working at living in harmony with the seasons, and in doing that, one of the things that we continue to refer back to is what did people used to do, you know, like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 500 years ago, like what did people do then, and how can we learn from those lessons to know like how we can like best you know, live off of this land and help with that. And we found a lot of interesting old methods that work well. And of course there's plenty of modern things, you know, we're by no means living by candlelight, you know.
Oh my god, no.
You know, or without refrigeration or anything like that. We're definitely
crazy
not
high-speed
like
internet
that.
up here.
We're very technological people, but at the same time we understand that the paths of our ancestors and those who walked before us, whether in this land or in other lands, has valuable knowledge and information associated with it, and we want to really try and not only learn that but understand why it was happening that way. And that's something that we do not just with the house but also with magic and also with other things. So I do a lot of sewing, and there's a lot of that goes that I've been learning.
I do a lot of the work on the, you know, like little stuff. I'm big on building stuff. All the shelves behind me I built these years and years and years ago. I built the top for our altar, so when you see that in the next podcast, you'll see the altar that we have for Yule. I built all the shelving for that. I do a lot of wood carving.
Yeah.
I do leather work. My family has a history, like, since we got in this country pre-Civil War, doing leather work, so I do a lot of leather work. I'm really, really big on recycling. I'm one of those people that, like, keeps every scrap of wood, because you never know when a corner of a 2x4 is going to be, like, the exact thing you need to finish a project. And I can't tell you how many times I have been, like, outside, you know, I've got my work gloves on, and I'm, like, you know, like, covered in sweat, and I come inside, and I'm just like, oh my god, you won't believe it. Like, I was looking for this thing, and I was trying to build this shelf, or I was trying to repair this thing on the aquaponics system, or repair this thing on one of the ponds, or what the heck ever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this
I'm in
perfect
the
triangle
kitchen.
of wood was exactly what we needed. I knew we needed to save it. Ha ha! Like, crazy.
Meanwhile,
person.
I'm in the kitchen doing kitchen witchery of some sort.
We're fixing up our
crafting
tinctures
herbs
or
and tinctures and stuff.
Exactly.
Making oils infused with things.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I mean, the thing is that you got to learn and you got to evolve and you got to grow. And I mean, I can't say that I necessarily didn't think that I was going to be like a crazy person in the woods when I grew up.
You're definitely a crazy mountain wizard.
Because I grew up in Sonoma. I grew up in a small town. I mean, like, we walked everywhere, so I walk at like way faster than is appropriate for regular people, but they walk too slow. Everybody should walk faster all the time. Pay attention more. It's not that hard. But I say that all the time to people. Nobody listens. It's fine. But like, no, you know what? I mean, for me, it's this thing where it's just like, you know, I grew up with the like, well, we're gonna go play in the creek, or like, well, you know, we're gonna go do whatever. I kind of grew up with that sort of a mentality, so being out here isn't so much of like a new shock for me, but it's a lot of opportunity. You know, I really love doing the work myself. I love learning new things. I have gotten like psychotically good with a chainsaw. fucking super rapidly.
Yeah.
I've parted out a bunch of redwood. We had AT&T had to drop a couple of trees for us, and they cut them into droppable size pieces, which is fine, but like vaguely too big for a human to carry. So I've had to part them out. Now we've got them sitting down the hill aging before I part them into either board lumber or we'll probably do redwood countertops in the long run in the kitchen with the redwood from our own property. So I really like restoring and building old things, and I learned that from Dad. I mean, he did that whole Singer sewing, what was that, like a year ago or whatever.
Oh,
he bought like a Singer sewing machine and like table or whatever. I was like, everything's got to be new, and then he just like repaired all of it. So I've always been like hyper crafty about that kind of stuff.
Well, and that lends really well to our magical practices as well.
Yeah,
a lot of the stuff that I like to do for my practice is we have these half moon.
These like
not half moon, they're like
crescent moon wood things. We found online some hair things. Honestly, I don't even put it in my hair very often. But it's just like a cool little wooden moon, and then I sanded them.
Sanded it and
I just formed this with carving and sanding, and then sealed it and polished it with a brown paper bag. It's like 10,000 grit sandpaper.
And
that's the lesson for the day.
Recently started patronizing? No.
What's the word you're looking for?
Following the goddess Aphrodite. I'm really into Greek mythology.
I guess patronizing would technically
work, but worshiping, I guess.
I don't like that. I don't like worshiping.
It feels less like worshiping and more like having her as a mentor. So I recently...
patronizing is technically the right word.
I don't like that.
It's a weird word. Somebody tell us what the right fucking word is for this.
Please. So I recently started worshiping Aphrodite, and I was like, oh, I should totally get like a statue. Like she told me, like basically like have a statue.
Statuary. Gods love statuary.
They do.
That's super rad.
And I was looking through all these like cool statues and artwork online, and I was just like, you know what? None of these for me are what I see of her, what I feel I need of her. Yeah, what I envision. And I ended up just, getting some polymer clay and just creating what I felt was what I needed to see for her, for her visual. And I think that that's important because a lot of the practice of magic is looking at what it is that other people are doing and trying to interpret that to yourself. And that's the thing that really is like the biggest takeaway for all of the years that I've been practicing is it's not necessarily what everybody else is doing or what the right way to do something is. And there are better ways than others, and some things have a wrong way to go about it. And we'll get more into those as we touch on specific topics. But it's really about looking what everybody else is doing and finding what resonates with you. And it's hard to really know what resonates with you at first because you're so... trying to figure out the questions, and I'd never really made like a statuary of a deity that I had been working with, and I'd never really even worked with deities before, like a little bit here and there, but not to the level that I have been. And I really, she now has a place on my altar, and it's perfect. She has like some pretty fabric and some pretty shells, and it's exactly what I wanted it to be. And if you were to look at it without knowing, you wouldn't necessarily know that was Aphrodite, but that's my thing for it.
Well, that's your Aphrodite.
My Aphrodite.
Yeah.
And that's part of the cool thing about it is using that intuition to find your magic and living where we live and having the kind of backgrounds that we both do. We're both very do-it-yourselfers. Yeah. So
super crafty.
My first thing is can I buy this thing for $12 or can I make it with $97 worth of craft supplies over
It's
4
always
months?
$97 worth of craft supplies.
It's always $97 worth of craft supplies, and it always takes forever. But you know what?
Being crafty's expensive,
the end result
but it's
is
worth it. It's always worth it. It's always worth it. You know what? And like Goodwills and Sutter hospices and all those.
Yeah.
All those. You know, I always grew up calling them junk stores, but all those kind of stores.
All the thrift stores.
The thrift stores. They have so much stuff, and you know what? It's that thing where it's like when you see a thing, you like it. I've got this this octopus cat that we've got up here on top of my desktop, and like I've got this like plush little
kawaii
stuffed animal thing, and I've got like 3, 4 little stuffed animal kawaii sea creatures that I hang off the ceiling above the altar space on my side of the altar, because I like having like those like sea creature things. And just, you know what, it's one of those things where it's like you never know if you're a great artist until you start doing art. You know, what is that movie we watched? God, I think we've watched it 3 times so far this year. Scare Me.
Oh, yeah.
There's a line
Shudder.
on Shudder. There's this movie called Scare Me. It's fantastic. It's basically like 3 people acting out stories in a room. You know, so instead of like shooting a story with Hollywood like cinematography and like movie magic and all this, it's just like an asshole pretending to do a story. It's fantastic. Watch this movie. But we watched it this year, and one of the ladies in here is like a successful writer, and she said something that we've both always strongly believed in, through craft and through our other hobbies and stuff like that. But she put it in such a way where it's just like, she's like, you just have to do the work. You know, and at one point in time, she's yelling at this guy, and she's like, I'm a writer. You have to put in the work. I observe reality. I write down ideas. You know, I start stories that are fucking dumb. And you have to do that. And, you know, I mean, like, as a recent example, in November, I did NaNoWriMo for the first time. And I've been writing a little bit here and there, and I did not finish 50,000 words in a month. Just because of life being as busy as it is and as chaotic as it is right now. You know, but I got a lot done, and I finished several stories, and I write short horror, like short story horror. And you know what, I like, and it got me in a place where I feel more connected to my writing, and I write more efficiently, and that kind of stuff has really, like, it feels good. Is the way that I'm gonna say it.
I think
you know
that
what
makes
I'm
a good
saying?
point.
And you gotta do the work. And the work doesn't mean that you have to do what chapter 5 of some fucking book says. And it doesn't mean that you need to complete some fucking spell. Like, I have this like hyper hate for modern goal-oriented living. It's super toxic to people's minds. Like, one day we will learn this as a species, and we'll figure it the fuck out. That, like, it's crazy, because we've talked about this for thousands of years. We've never really, like, dialed it in. It's not the destination, it's the journey, you know? And you gotta be okay with what you're doing. And you know what? Sometimes you're not feeling it, you know, and you're just like, I don't know, and whatever, and it's cool to, like, not do a thing. You know, and that's the way I like to put it. It's like, I'm just, you know what? I don't want to do a thing right now. I'm just gonna fucking chill. Let's put on a horror movie or whatever. We're big horror fans. Like, let's put on a horror movie and let's just chill. And sometimes it's like, you know, I don't want to do a thing, but I know I need to get this done. And I'm gonna make this work. You know, or I'm gonna be up until the first half of November. I was up until 2:00 in the morning writing. Every day, you know, just because I was just like, I was so into the groove of it. And that's the thing, is it's like, you find your groove. You know, if you have a belief that's one direction, and you have a practicality that is maybe not in line with what others of your belief follow, that's cool. Like that's fine, man. You know, everybody practices differently. Everything's different. And to be completely honest, I mean, from like an absolute historical accuracy point of view, a lot of what we know, we primarily know from either like 3rd, 4th, like fifth sources. So it's they're not even like real prime sources, or it's post facto made up stuff based on the one primary source we actually have.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that more when we get into
we'll dive into this
podcasts.
when we do like more specific podcasts.
I feel like really you hit the nail on the head there, because it's like finding what works for you, and that's really what it is.
Be Stella, find your groove.
No, that's all about getting your groove back as if you've lost it.
Well,
so like, you know, find the thing that interests you, and then just pursue it, and just allow space in your mind to evaporate the things away that make you question whether or not it's the thing that you want to be doing or the thing you should be doing, and just sort of follow that thread. And when that thing clicks and you feel it, whether it's about magic or about something else, like take that thing, it's precious, and work on that thing. Keep that click alive. Live in that moment.
And truly understand that you are not alone in any thought that you have. You know, there's it's that like humbling nature of nihilism nonsense. But but I mean, honestly, like if you feel a practice or a thing is maybe not your vibe, and there's something a little bit better, even though it's disassociated with maybe the necessary historical practices of the thing that you believe in or accept or are feeling or whatever, right? Honestly, like, be aware of the fact that there are certainly other people who believe similarly to you. You know, like, it's one of those things where it's like all potential thoughts will be, and you know, and are being thought at any given moment. You know, and it's that, you know, I'm sort of psychotically into like quantum mechanics and physics and that kind of stuff, and the like greater id of science, and sometimes the application of those ideas to something as esoteric as belief sort of enlighten you on this idea that, like, you can be free in your thought with the knowledge that you are not alone in that thought, but also with the knowledge and acceptance that the, like, specificity and originality and difference, right, the otherhood of your thought is what makes your thought as special and as powerful as it is. And I know that, especially nowadays, we have such a bias towards otherness, right? Nobody wants to be the outside. But, you know, I've always had this saying, and I've always believed this in its truest sense, normal people fucking suck, dude. Like, be weird, be crazy, be fun, be the truest self that you are. Don't fucking upset other people or hurt other people. Don't be a piece of shit. But be the truest you. And that's incredibly important in my mind.
And difficult.
And difficult, yeah. And
well, on that note...
yeah. Before I drone on endlessly forever...
I feel like only I need to be saddled with that. Not all
super,
of...
I know what I'm doing. Or I don't. Who knows? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anywho, yeah, so, I've been Jon Norgrove.
And I've been Julie Norgrove.
This is Horn and Cauldron podcast. Yeah, and, if you're listening to us, subscribe or follow or whatever the particular application you're using uses podcasts, whatever term they use for it.
Leave us a review.
Yeah, leave us a review.
Share it with your friends.
If it has commenting, if that particular service allows you to leave comments, comment. If not, the video of this podcast is going to be on youtube.com/nerdjive. And it'll come out just slightly before the podcast gets to whatever subscription service you're on.
Watching us there, give us a like, give us a share,
comment below.
We look forward to hearing more about all of you and what you think. Do you have any questions?
Let us know what your practice is. Give us mail. We're definitely gonna read through it.
Yeah.
You can always visit nerdjive.com. And just go to contact us, and I have a contact form there for you to send us mail. And yeah.
And the next show will be on Yule. So
yeah, at
we're
the very beginning of
sharing
Yule. So it's going to be
what our practices are and how we like to go through sort of the Yule season. And that's pretty much from December pretty much through like the end of January, sort of into February. So Yule is, the darkest of the winter months.
Yeah. Yule itself is the 21st through the 1st.
Yeah.
But the winter months are sort of like all about that. We'll also talk about what we do for ritual. We, pre-Rona, generally celebrate ritual with a number of friends.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about how we do ritual and how we've adapted our ritual in these trying times, as well as what we kind of do as a general rule for winter to, honestly, keep your food budget down, but your happiness budget up. To sound like a fucking piece of shit.
Some fun craft.
Yeah, and some fun craft ideas for Yule. There's a lot of good, low cost, like entry-level crafts you can do to really up your Yule game, as it were.
Yeah.
And we both have very different interpretations of how we celebrate these things, and so that's going to be informative for you guys, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So yeah, join us next time for Yule. I guess we'll catch you guys next time, huh?
Listening.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Join us the next time, and
we'll
there's
see
gonna
you
be
then.
more
Or
drinking and
hear
more
you then.
talking. Yeah, we'll see you then.